house are coming up in my yard.
Yeah. Stuff behind the fence.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I've seen things happen.
You ride your snowmobile in?
No. We have an ordinance that's riding them on the property. Yeah. Send me a bill. It was worth every penny.
Yeah.
I know the guy that's picking me up. Anyway, this sounds like a win.
Yeah.
Grader looked great going down Murphy this afternoon. One pass.
Yeah.
Yep, little dusty, little dusty. Oh, looked great. Plowed very completely. Very nicely. Dust control in the winter, it's gotta be pretty cheap though, it's just water, right? I'm serious, I mean, like, that's. What
You can
have
get
to
it out
do,
there,
right? Just
yeah.
go out there and spray some water.
Not a ton.
Hey, Chief, did
Just
you get-
that's the biggest thing, yeah.
Did the text come through today? Did my text come through today, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know, I wrote Wednesdays, Friday.
Hey, Shane. I don't know that there's anything that we need you here for tonight. If,
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to text you earlier today. I apologize about that.
Yeah, no problem. I thought maybe you wanted me just in case a question came up on Robin View or something, because I think Cindy's not going to be there tonight, correct?
Yeah, Cindy texted me earlier too, and I told her that she didn't need to.
Okay,
It's just on a consent agenda, so I don't think that we'll have anything with that one. I mean, if you want to hang for 5 minutes until we get through that part, you're more than welcome to, and then just
Okay.
drop off after that.
yep, I'll plan on doing that.
Cool, sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
All right, 6 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody, for joining us for the February 22nd Credit River City Council meeting. Looking for any changes to the agenda, if anybody has any, or otherwise I'd take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Brent. Motion is second to approve the agenda as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Consent agenda. Those items on the city council agenda which are considered routine, non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requested an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, the items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed on the agenda under old business. Tonight, on the consent agenda, we have ordinance 2022-01 governing the Monterey Heights, South Passes, Stonebridge, and Territory Environmental Subordinate Service Districts Waste Collection Systems, just some updated language. Number 2.2 is a resolution 2022-06, resolution supporting housing and local decision-making authority. Item 3, resolution 2022-07, approving a preliminary plat and final plat for development known as Robin View. Resolution 2022-08, approving a development agreement for a development known as Robin View. And then item number 5 is the claims for tonight. Anybody have anything on the consent agenda that you'd like to pull and consider separately? No?
Nope.
Yeah.
Question, I don't know if we need to.
Mhm.
We're all clear on.
Yeah.
Looking at the supporting documents, maybe. Could you just I think we have our full support.
Yeah.
Could you just give a little bit of background on that, some of the conversation, so people understand?
Yeah, so the background really is that there's some housing bills going through state legislature right now that have some very negative effects to a lot of the suburban cities in the metro area. And these bills are only looking at the 7-county metro area. So these same requirements would not be required in, say, Rice County or or any, counties just maybe 10, 15 miles further up from here. Some of the biggest things that would, most harmful are things, requirements of like 8 units per acre. Right now, we're, in anything that's sewer and water would require 3 units per acre densities. So, I mean, they're not, everything would be multifamily housing, apartment buildings and items like that, things that probably wouldn't work so well, not because of they're bad things, but just because of there's no transportation here. You'd have big parking lots, it'd be kind of a mess. So what our resolution is to support the League of Minnesota Cities as a alternative to that, that kind of goes in the meets in the middle a little bit more, at least starts the conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
thought it was really important.
Yeah.
To pull it off for extra
Sure.
conversation, 'cause it,
Yeah.
probably did impact us, and we were in that grid zone.
Yeah.
These are concerns.
Absolutely.
Modern complexity that we have to deal with the
Mhm.
185th and north and south.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks
no
for that.
problem. Absolutely. All right, with that, I would take a motion and a second to approve consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make that motion.
I'm gonna take Andrew's motion on that, Alan. I'll take your second then.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public the opportunity to address concerns to the city council. The public forum will be no longer than 5 minutes, or sorry, no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The city council may discuss but will not take action on formal action on public forum presentations. Tonight, I see Commissioner Wolf.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Thomas, Scott County Commissioner. Just a couple things tonight. We did that last Tuesday.
Is your microphone on?
Microphone.
To hold that button down, please. There you go.
Got it. So,
You good?
yeah, last Tuesday, we approved the half-cent sales tax. So that's gonna go 10 years. That's doing a lot of improvements around the entire county. The next load, I think we got the ports down by Savage, out by 169, 282 in Jordan. There's even 35 and 2 on the bridge there. So we're all over the county there. So also redistricting, sounds like there's going to be a new state rep here, possibly, and senators. So, or maybe Senate.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the whole lines yet. I don't know if anything is final yet and if they're done with the court. I don't know, but I was just waiting to see till it's all done. And then Markley Lake, we talked about that a little bit at our chair, vice chair today. And, it sounds like you guys are paying 16,000, Prior Lake's paying 16. Things are different now. You guys are a city compared to, township. We would like to somehow or another do something different there, and maybe just we talked about maybe even buying the properties. So that 50,000 could turn into $100,000 in costs every year for pumping. And we still have nothing. So
Yeah, so Tom, what the current expenditure is to do a study is,
we're gonna do
and
a
the
study.
RFQ went out
Mhm.
Friday
Mhm.
to find a consultant to do the study
Yep.
on and find out what the reasonable
Yeah.
solutions might be. And buying property is clearly one of the,
because I think it sounds like there's only 2 properties on there. That's what they made it sound like today.
yeah, but then there's a whole trail too.
Yeah, yep, yeah. So, they'd like an outlet, and somebody owns some property then. I can't remember. I think the guy's name was Jerry. Jerry and Carol. Leroy, you know.
Yeah,
I think we came to the meetings here, but anyhow,
yeah.
they were supposed to tell that they got some money to,
Judge, voting judge.
yeah, the voting judge, yeah, I can't.
Jerry Michaels?
Jerry Michaels, that's
They
it.
haven't been
Yep.
there for a long time though.
They've
I
been
know.
gone 2-3 years,
That's their property.
but I think they got
Yeah.
some money for that, and they didn't tell the current owner that they had
No. It's
or
the.
something, yeah.
Yes, so the past owner of the very last property down in Credit River, that was the one where the county and the city got sued before,
Okay.
and there was a settlement.
Pink's old property.
Yeah,
Oh, that, okay.
they were, as they were signing the settlement documents with the county and the city, this person was signing the closing documents, buying the house, so that didn't show up in a title search. And so about 3 months later, they came and asked him to sign off on it. He's like, what is this? And yeah,
Oh,
Did go well.
so yeah, but
They took him for a ride.
anyhow, so I,
Unfortunately, it's really stinks. It's a bad situation for him.
yeah, well, yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think if we can buy those property, that's my, just looking at it really quickly, it's like, well, 50 could be 100, and 20 years from now, that's
Yeah.
a lot of money. And
So-
so we still have to keep pumping. So, and that's all I
Yeah.
have tonight.
Cool. Thanks,
So,
Tom.
all right, yep,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Anybody else for open forum tonight? All right, well, then we will close open forum and we will jump into presentations. Tonight, we have the representatives from the Prior Lake Fire Department, and we're going to talk about upcoming staffing change for the Prior Lake Fire Department. Chief Steinhaus, and if you want to, yeah, if you don't mind stepping up the podium, if that's all right, and I can, I will share the
You want me to sign
presentation. No, you're good. We know who you are and where to find you.
Just come to the
For better or
fire
for
station.
worse.
That's where I'm at. Hey,
Deputy's busy, huh?
We usually have the deputy on the first meeting of the month.
He's busy chasing around. So.
Yeah, you're this
Yeah.
one guy.
You heard about the one guy?
This one guy.
you all
All right.
set?
Yeah, we're set.
All right, well, thanks for having us again tonight. So we're gonna go over, the same PowerPoint that we had done back in November. It's updated a little bit with some numbers. I have Captain Jason Koski is here tonight also. He was the one that was responsible for the writing of the grant and doing a lot of the research. So I may defer to him a couple of times to make sure that I don't say the wrong thing. If I do say the wrong thing, please let me know. And then Assistant Chief Jim Rizika is here, more for support for me, I think.
Do we need to put this on a time delay or?
No.
This
No, no, no,
7-second
no.
delay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rifle through this,
Yeah.
this
Sure.
PowerPoint and then open it up to questions. If there's questions during the PowerPoint, feel free to ask. Okay.
Perfect.
So just our background, as you can see, volunteer department started in 1929. That was from the village of Prior Lake. That was started by, I think, 6 or 7 people there. So way back in the day, 1994, we built our Station 1 as presently, and that's at Fish Point and 21 for Eagle Creek Avenue. 2007, Fire Station 2 was built, and that is at basically the corner of 42 and Eagle Creek. 2010, Chief Doug Hartman was hired as the first full-time employee of the fire department for the city. And then the second one, Jim Rizika, that was just this last fall in 2021. And then 2023, we're kind of moving towards trying to start this. So I have to keep up with you on here. So right now we're 37 paid on-call firefighters. 60% of our current firefighters have less than 5 years, 75% less than 10. So we're a very young department.
To the point of the 37,
Mhm.
and so 50 would be the ideal number, right?
50 is what we're approved for.
Mhm.
So we're not close to that.
So if you were gonna, in a paid on call model, is that ideal or should you have more than that?
No, that would be about where we would be,
Okay.
where we would be pretty solid in that number.
Sure.
I think the number that we've come up with lately, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, 25 to 30% of our department is what we get to respond right now. Am I right there? About that number, 30%. So not super great in the numbers. So 50 would help.
Yeah.
But we've never seen that number. We'll get into that in the next few slides of how we lose faster than we gain. So average age is 41 years old. Our hourly wage right now is $14.52 per hour of training and calls. And then we have our pension after 10-year of vest. So our calls are increasing. You can see we've gone up. That 510 in 2020, I think you can see that dip was attributed to COVID. We really slowed down during the height of things. Surprisingly, everybody thought we were going to go through the roof, and we actually slowed way down. I think that was because people were just locked in their houses.
Stay home.
So 674 in 2021 is what we did. So we're growing. The big reason what would be is that we're growing population wise. Number one. Number two, we have well, I can include Credit River and Spring Lake in this also, Prior Lake. We have a high population of elderly residents, and then a high population of very young or a younger generation, and then not much in the middle, right? When you think about it. But we saw a pretty significant increase in our medical response. So there's I can't give you the exact reason why we increased. Yeah. So, right. Yep. And then, one of the things that I can say is, more population, more problems, I guess, is how you can kind of put it together. Sure.
Stepping on your steel.
Please.
This graph is not unique to Prior Lake. What this shows is for first response, especially in the state of Minnesota, from 2010 on. 911 based services have had a steady 7% growth as a commodity, a public safe commodity. And what you're seeing in this graph is that regardless of the department or place, the growth that occurred from 2010 on, that if you take out the correction in the graph, that was a negative correction during COVID, that you'll see this across the board, that the growth has continued and did an immediate catch up. So I guess to the point of this graph is to give you a point of reference. This isn't Prior Lake, that's why I achieved this back. Is that this growth, as you start to see it, is a steady growth that COVID put a, much like any other stock, a correction in the marketplace, and that all of first response in the state recovered at the level that it would have been at regardless of COVID, and then continued to grow with it. And that's why we're seeing a lot of problems in healthcare. And first response across the state is that we had a downturn in the market that was action items or basically decisions were made to try to correct for that. And now we're playing catch up to that, where if we would have just stayed on the plan, we would have been in a much better spot as a state. Is that so? Yeah. So that it looks silly, but it isn't.
Yeah, I forget about the years. I'm looking at the trend before COVID, but then it's skyrocketed.
Yeah, and this is not a unique pattern here. When you plot this out across the state, this is what you see everywhere. And it's a multi-factor thing. It's a utilization of services and growth in the first response agencies here. The chief's point is the more true items are usually age-based housing. So like the medicals, compared to previous to 2010, there just wasn't the density of medical calls that there were in these populated areas. Hopefully, does that help answer it for you?
I have another question.
Sure.
Why do we say on fire department for medical call? If it's just a medical call, why wouldn't the police and the ambulance come?
They do. Yeah, they do. So we're there to assist them. We're all medically trained paramedics and EMTs and first responders. So we're there to support them. Sometimes we're there to first respond. I know that's obvious, but a line that may be out of the area or coming from a distance.
Well,
yeah, and
my
you
area, kind of my area of expertise is to answer that is that with that was a growth in time life threats, medical, and that a lineup, for example, the ambulance service in this area has an average response time in Credit River of pushing 18 minutes. So the Prior Lake doesn't respond as a fire department to every medical call. They respond to the ones through our partnership with the Scott County Sheriff's Department Dispatch Center. that they're responding to the time life threats, so that you have like a cure circle or a team that's there. And Prior Lake and the Scott County Sheriff's time for medicals is sub 8 minutes. Scott County Sheriff is right around 4.5, and Prior Lake's fire is about double that. So as far as like the medical side of this, which is my expertise, is the medical calls, you need those first responders there as quickly as possible. So these are the not breathing, cardiac arrest, severe trauma, that if we had no Scott County Sheriff responding or the fire department, we'd have people basically in the depth of death for 18 minutes. And that is something that I think as a community is really tough to overcome without utilizing your first response resources. That's not a unique Prior Lake problem either.
And we're finding that police, either the sheriff's department that we work with in Credit River or in Spring Lake, or the city's department, you can look at their graph and see their numbers going through the roof too. So they're not always available to come to a medical. They're spread out on other calls, taking care of other things. So
Prior Lake Fire Department, I think the bottom line doesn't respond to medical calls that these represent the ones where there's something identifiable there that, hey, send everybody as quick as you can, because this sounds like it needs a lot of help.
Yep. So you see this graph, these are our 3 major calls that we take care of. These aren't this isn't all that we do. We kept out the false alarms and the boo-boo calls, as Doc Stevens said there. So
Very technical medical.
yeah, right. So our accidents kind of stay the same the past 3 years. Our medicals did increase, and we talked about why there. Our fires stayed about the same, a little decrease from 2020. So our factors, these are our talking points. Why are we deciding to do this right now? So our next few slides, we'll discuss our staffing, our response times. As Counselor Stevens, our response times are suffering, and I've got some documentation to support that should there's be some questions. And then our growth, and then fire prevention. So our staffing concerns right now, our model runs as a paid on call. So as a paid on call department, so our inconsistency in response, we never know how many people are going to show up. So they wear a pager. They come from home. They come from their employer. They come from church. They come from wherever they're, their garage, mowing the lawn, whatever they're doing, right? If they're available, they show up. So we don't ever have a concrete number of who's showing up. So that's one of our problems. Retention, as we talked about earlier, I'm sorry. We're losing more from either retirement or resignation than we can hire. Recruitment, we're struggling mightily with that. So I like to say that we have a mandatory orientation when we do a hiring, before we even start the process of interviewing, of actually doing the hiring, so that people get an idea of what they're seeing or what they're gonna be involved with. And we'll have people get up right in the middle of it and walk out. Right? The time commitment is heavy the first year. There's schools, they're in school 3 nights a week, sometimes on the weekends. The training, the hours involved in it, and then the requirements completely, right? So people are just busy these days. It's just different than the way it used to be, for sure. I think I mentioned last time, we don't have 3 or 4 Schomers on the department anymore. We don't have 3 or 4 Squazacheks and Mertens, and we don't have that brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles thing anymore. It's just not a.
Well, it's changed. Before you had a driver's license, you were on fire department.
Right. Yeah, that's not far off. Right?
Yeah.
So then our station 2, we're really having difficulty finding firefighters there. The demographics in that area is a lot different from, and we talked about that a little bit earlier about, that's a younger family demographic up in that area. So a lot of people that are just too busy. So. So our hiring, again, not keeping up with our pace. resignations or retirements. So in 2017 to 2021, we lost 27 people, firefighters, and we only hired 19. In 2021, we lost 8 and hired 3, and I think we're down to 2 already because one of them left already. So, so we're just not keeping up with the numbers, and that goes back to our 37 instead of 50, right? Our response times are suffering mightily, and now that we just started a new reporting software that is a lot more. I don't even know what the word would be. A lot more detailed and consistent with keeping track of times.
Yeah.
And I'm really seeing some negative things here. So
$14.52 an hour, and why don't we pay people more money? Than people
yeah, it has a lot to do with where we were and not budgeting for that in the past. There are raises coming in our pension as of hopefully in a half an hour from now. So we'll see that. And then, right. Yeah. No, I know. Right.
Yeah, well, Walmart's at 19.
Yeah.
I think the point of that, like the
Yeah.
HR research on first responders, is the dollar amount to overcome what you're suggesting. It's so close already to a full-time fire department.
Right.
Yeah, it really does to actually recruit and retain that. The expenditure is so close to paying for a full-time response at that point.
But full-time, you pay benefits and all that. So
Yeah.
part-time. you don't
Right.
Pay $20 an hour, even though that.
It's a much, Chief, you'd have to quote me on what some of the fire research is, but it's not even double. Like to get the dollar value that you need there, even without the indirect costs, is high. Like to actually get what you're discussing, the number I've seen repeatedly thrown out there is like closer to the $50 an hour on the paid on call, and that's as far as market analysis goes and comparators, like as far as compliance goes, that cities do have to deal with a little bit. You can't even barely justify the hourly rate anymore that it would cost to get this kind of communities to come back involved. The dollar amount is just so high to make the risk analysis for the individuals that are considering doing this, that by the time you get there, you're so dang close to a full-time model anyways.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we like to compare, right? So we're a comparable society. So we like to look at our numbers compared to others in the area, and we're right where most are. Even in larger size departments, bigger city departments are paying the same as we are, or maybe a little more. Some are even less, right? And so we just kind of follow that trend.
And that's a conversation we've had for years now. Every time we meet to talk about budget stuff, we've had that conversation, are we at the right spot?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that is a budget discussion item for this year, for next year. Because as you'll see, as you get further into the PowerPoint, we're not disbanding our paid on call. We need them for support. Mm-hmm. Right. So what we're finding here is career department Nfpa standards is what we follow. Career department standards is 6-minute on scene time, and that is a mitigating vehicle. That's an engine with water for a fire. That's a rescue with excavation tools for an accident, right? Paid on call department standard is 10 minutes. Right now we average 8 minutes and 57 seconds for a mitigating unit.
Important on that one though, to get to Crescent Curve, the very furthest out in Crescent River.
So it's
we talked about this before, right?
So for me, it's a skewed number. If we have a car accident or a car fire at the intersection of Eagle Creek Avenue and Fish Point Road, our response time is about 30 seconds, right? Okay. If we have a car accident out on County Road 8 and Highway 13, like we did this weekend, we had a 17-minute response time, right? So unacceptable, right?
And that response time would have been if somebody was at the station, ready to go.
10
At the most, probably,
at the most,
right?
right?
For that.
We have a 5 to 6, 4 to 5 to 6. Again, the numbers bounce around. Turnout time, it's called. So our pagers go off right now. They drop what they're doing. If they're available, they get in their car. They drive the speed limit to the fire station. They park. They come into the station. They put on their gear. They put the truck in service. And from that time, that's how they get the turnout number. Is 6 minutes on a good day. That's what we average. Saturdays and Sundays, it can be as much as 12 minutes, 13 minutes to even get a truck in service. 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, it could be that long because, it's just the availability. And that's where we look at not knowing who we have when, right?
And
So,
these are average times too,
Right.
Beyond NFPA. is-
And chief, you have to have so many firefighters there before a truck can leave, right?
yeah, we have minimum staffing numbers as far as minimums for trucks. So 4 is a minimum on an engine. 3 is a minimum on a medical. So
Have you guys calculated your 90th percentile fractile?
not yet.
times?
No.
Costing.
Have you?
Because I think we'd all be a little shocked at what the 90th percentile time is, which is what beyond NFPA, which is what your reliability is. That's the standard that we hold ourselves to. And I guess I'm talking with the old hats tonight, but if you look at our 90th percentile time, that gets rid of the when you're too close, and too far, and it gives you an actual real snapshot of what actually happens here.
I know that was a huge eye opener for Savage.
Yeah.
When they did theirs.
Yeah. And I know
When they-
Chief Slammo with
yeah.
that,
When they transitioned to their full-time status, that was a huge wow number for them.
Yeah, and they got to a reliable point 90% of the time that their city then found a very acceptable in their community members.
This is just a slide that we like to put in here. This is not a pitch or a conversation for home sprinklers, so please don't go there. This is just a slide on how fast things happen, and the longer it takes us to get there, the worse it gets.
But the takeaway there, Chief, is that like the community members need to understand is in a place like Credit River that we have a lot of people that move here that
Right.
are expected city level services.
Right.
And that there's no other way other than the crass way to say this, that if something starts on fire in Credit River, it's likely going to burn.
Yeah.
That to the ground, most likely without a augmented response to try to mitigate the fire.
Right.
And we've heard that for years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, depending on the time of day, it can be that way in Prior Lake in the city too. So that's not necessarily a good thing.
Like Christmas Eve at the West Mater's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have, if you want a discussion on point on that about how much of a difference it made to have an auto-aided staffed full-time department get there 7 minutes before our truck did, and how it saved the neighbor's house. It's a good talking point.
Yeah.
Right. So this is our effective time on cardiac arrest events. This is the faster you get there, the better. So, for each minute. So, so our growth, this is a Met Council numbers that are 2020 or our 2040 comparison to 2020. So obviously we're growing, Credit River is growing, Spring Lake's growing, by 2020, our number almost doubles, right? Population wise. So again, growth is a big thing for us, right? Comparisons, our populations, we're Shakopee obviously is a little bit bigger than us. Savage, we're comparable to them with properties and such. We're comparable with Shakopee also. They just have a little higher population. But our square miles are a lot different than theirs. We cover 71 square miles in our district. So that's the city, and then Credit River and Spring Lake. So we have a large area, lots of miles to cover.
Do you have any examples you know off the top of your head, somebody who's comparable to that kind of square miles?
I don't, they're really, besides rural departments. There's some
Simon
Dakota,
County Metro,
there's some Dakota County
I
departments
suppose.
in the south part of Dakota County that
Not quite.
are pushing that.
Yeah, they are, and actually Bloomington is actually a pretty big. city.
Right. Yeah.
You don't realize how big a square miles is. Bloomington is.
Right.
It's probably the most comparable suburban urban mix. that
Yeah.
you could compare.
We have the biggest in the county. Belle Plaine covers, they cover, right, they have an area in was that not McLeod County? What's the next one over? Carver and Sibley, they kind of, they bounce around a little bit. But you also have to keep in mind, it's the population of those. It's a lot of rural area with open fields and roads, correct, right? So,
Hastings is probably the only other one I know of, G2,
yeah,
that just has a large response area. but
Right.
They are.
I know Randolph Hampton,
Yeah. they're-
they have a very large area, but they're two cities that combined and so on, so. So our prevention, this is kind of my big soapbox thing. Life safety inspections, pre-planning and education kind of fall into our public education, fall into our prevention bubbles. And those things are just not happening. We don't have the staff for them. And so we're falling way behind on those. Life safety inspections are, please don't confuse them with new construction and inspections for building permits and that's handled by the building department in the city. I'm talking about shift inspections, multifamily, healthcare, egress areas, storage, commercial, so on. Pre-planning is something that we need to do that we do not, and that's just simply planning for events. Big commercial buildings, understanding how they work, what's in them, what we need to do to be safe for us, right? And then public education, we just don't have the resources to do it. And I'm saying no to lots of requests for station tours, for Boy Scout badges, for school visits, for daycare visits. We can't. People ask at 2:00 on a Tuesday, can you be here? We can't, right? So it's very, very unfortunate. And that's part of what our transitioning would be. That would be a big part of their job, right? So as a generalized land use, this is just our increases from 2016 to 2020. So commercial and industrial, that our mixed use is really gone through. Jason, do you want to go through this part, or do you want me to? Thanks.
Is Jason still here?
So this is our proposal. This has not changed. We're asking for 12 full-time firefighters, 3 captains, 9 firefighters working 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Be 1 captain, 1 shift supervisor, and then 3 firefighters per shift. That puts 4 on an engine. Our engines are now equipped rescue-wise also, so they carry the same EMS equipment and extrication equipment. So it's 1 vehicle, 1 crew, mitigating crew, right? And we're going to keep our current paid on call. We have no plans to disband. We have no plans to move people out. We have no plans to do anything with our paid on call because they are there for simultaneous incidents, all calls, right? Or large scale incidents. We're expecting between 150-ish responses for them a year. And then to backfill the full-time employees that are out sick or on vacation, et cetera, they'll be utilized for that. So you could call that a duty crew if you would like, right? So in my opinion, I think they're pretty much synonymous, right? What's that? I think when we looked at the numbers, Jason, do you have that? Yeah, we went, what's that? You don't have them with you?
That was a concern that brought my.
Sure. Yeah.
But they were saying, why, there's a lot of other cities that used to be
Mhm.
Lakeville, a number of them that have more calls
Mhm.
They went, they didn't.
Sure.
I skip that step.
Yeah. So what we did a lot of research. So this has been something that's been this is a 2-year research and right. And in talking to them, and I'm not going to speak for specific departments, but many of them talked about how it didn't work more than it worked, right? Because now you're asking people for even more time to be away from their families, stay overnight, more training, more hours, right? And from what I heard from a few of them, it worked very well at first, and then the coolness of sleeping at the fire station went away, right? Because now all of a sudden it's, hey, I have my normal job to be at 7:00 tomorrow morning. And if I wasn't sleeping in this fire station, I probably wouldn't have gone on that call last night. Now I'm tired, right? And so the duty crew was looked at. We had a duty crew program, if you will, during the COVID pandemic. We shut down our stations and we did Jim, if was it 12 hours? I don't remember what I even did. I think it was a 12-hour shift that people were at the station. We had 5 guys at the station, 5 people at the station manning that truck so that everybody didn't have to come back, right? And again, it worked for a little while and then it didn't. So it's, again, you're trying to do pretty much, in my opinion, you're trying to do more with the 37 people you have now. And you're asking them to do more, right? And so, sure. And yeah, no, you're right. But it just doesn't, in our experience, in our research, it doesn't make a difference.
You ran all the numbers, I'm sorry.
Yep.
No, so I was just gonna say that the biggest point for that is daytime availability, so we could use it. Yeah, where we're gonna be exposed to data. One of the challenges is if we have members pull in for deals. And so, like any organization, most departments are top, volunteer departments are top. As soon as they hit that 29 hours of kind of help, so that would be the biggest job.
And that's one of our biggest issues right now is our daytime response. Even on the weekends, people think the weekends are, well, you're covered. You're not, because now all the people that have been working all weekend they want to go to their cabins, they want to go out on the lake, they want to, you know what I mean? So we really struggle daytime and weekend availability. So
Well, I think that also lends to just looking at, if you look at the population here in Prior Lake, Critter River and Spring Lake, most everybody leaves the area for work during the day.
Yeah.
You know, there's some manufacturing, there's some jobs in town, but.
Right. And we're finding,
overall,
and we're finding now, especially a lot of employers are not letting their employees leave like they used to because of insurance problems. In fact, we just went through that with an individual. So it's just,
Dave, we have daytime training for people that work nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is typically 3 or 4 guys that have fire jobs, 24-hour shifts. And
yeah.
So that's a total of about 4 that are available. And 3 of those are only every other day.
Sure.
So that days are challenging.
Mhm.
When I look at this proposal too, there's a lot of model development that can be considered in this, and it sounds like the homework has been done. That even though it's being called a full-time fire department on outward, and it is tough to look at what the financial implications is to that. It's really important that this really is probably the paid on-call model hybrid that makes it work for us, because if we were actually going to a full-time paid department, it would be 3 times chief, would you say, probably what's being proposed to actually be a full-time fire department. When I look at this proposal, this is the minimum to have a response that's reliable 24 hours a day, much like a paid on-call model, because this is only accounting for one apparatus ability to provide the coverage. So we're calling ourselves a full-time fire department with this proposal, but in reality, this is a minimum dental floss to hold it all together.
It's a true combination department.
Combo. So I think that maybe
hopefully.
when you're looking at that, or when you hear others talk about that, think of it more of this is the right sized fit that incorporates what a paid on call model has, both the benefits of reliable response and financially, fiscally palatable for us. Is that a fair way to look at this, or possibly to look at it? That otherwise we'd be at 2 full stations full of people all times, all days. And as you can see, you can do your math quick, what it would cost to do that from a human personnel standpoint.
Right. So the organizational chart, pretty self-explanatory. So, like I said, 3 shifts. So 3 captains, 3 firefighters, 1 captain and 3 firefighters on each shift. So the funding, this changed from when we were here last time in November. We didn't have we didn't know what the grant was going to call for when they released it. So the first 3 years are fully covered, which in the past, it has been 75, 75, 35, I believe, right? Yeah, so
It's scaled down at any rate.
right.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at 100, 100 and 100. So it's the 3 years. So after that performance, those performance years are done. Then we go to fire contracts with the city of Credit River, Spring Lake Township, and then our general tax levy in Prior Lake. And that would begin in 2026. So it's kind of hard to read. So again, this slide changed dramatically. So first 3 years, it just shows the 3 years of funding. And then in 2026, and this includes inflation and cost of living and so on. So Prior Lake would be the almost 2 million or almost 1.2 million. Then Credit River 272 and Spring Lake 177 would be how that is broken down.
Given today's value.
Correct.
Because so just so you are aware, it's based upon market value, taxable market value is how it's split.
Right.
It's actually been a really good calculation. As we've looked at it over the years, the splits almost equal the number of calls in each community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
When
think,
this was actually negotiated in 2008.
yeah,
At the time, we were told that we had probably the best contract township with city in the state, and a lot of other communities have used that same figure.
well, that's because.
Well, absolutely. And
The
it
attorneys have
was,
spread that.
and it was really Mike Miser, Mayor Miser, that got all the groups together and said, wait a minute, these are our neighbors. How can we figure this out and make it work? Because it benefits everybody.
Right.
Yep.
What are the odds of it?
That's a good question. And I wish we could.
It's very much unforecastable. Yeah. You just don't know, and they don't tell you why.
July?
Anywhere between
It's a government.
April to like July, August.
Yeah.
Later is better.
You typically didn't get it then.
No news is good news, believe it or not.
100%, or is it a
Yes.
point?
Yeah.
And when you start hiring after you know you have it,
Yeah.
or you're gonna do this?
We haven't reached that decision yet. There'll be discussion once we figure out where we're at with the grant. If the grant does not go through, obviously, we're gonna have to have some pretty deep discussion on how I believe that, in my head, I would like to say we're gonna have to figure something out because we're failing, right?
You had that conversation with the mayor prior, like. We're in your.
It goes through, it would be everybody. Everybody would have, we would have never done this without the support of Credit River and Spring Lake. It wouldn't be something where this is how it's gonna be too bad. That's not how we went about this at all.
I think what we
So,
proposed here that I've kind of been vocal about, so I'll own that, is we're gonna end up at the same endpoint that has to be dealt with. And that what I think we agreed upon when we were here is that we were not gonna move forward with the SAFER grant without the support of all the
Right.
entities involved. But that once we completed the SAFER grant, we're gonna get that work group together because we need a plan for a SAFER grant and we need a plan without a SAFER grant, because regardless, we have to come to some
Right.
decision that is unified on how are we going to address what needs to happen, which is provide a service that is expected. And I'd say my bias is, you may or may not know, I'm the medical director for Fire Lake, so I'll put my conflict of interest out there. Is whether or not this goes through benefits me in no way whatsoever. And that my bias on the medical side is I can probably swallow the fact that where I live, if my house starts on fire, it burns to the ground. But what I cannot swallow is the human life effect, that without a plan that gives reliable first response to time life threat medicals, that just something as a community member, as a council member, and as the medical director for Prior Lake Fire, I don't think that we're meeting what probably would be expected of us as a service for those type of situations. So I feel personally, and in all those roles, that we need to come up with a plan that's sustainable for an endpoint that people feel safe here from a human life threat standpoint. We can deal with the sticks that may burn, but that you cannot, it's hard to rectify that there wasn't reliable responses for a kid that's choking or a grandpa with cardiac arrest, that because we don't have a reliable service and we don't have a reliable plan that has financial implications, that we just don't address it. That's not an option.
So we're in the standard, let's say, we're under the.
Mhm.
What is that?
Cut it in half.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's
So-
Turnout.
Yeah.
So the time that it takes them to get there.
from all the numbers, and this is complete fire chief math. From just looking at it, I mean, you can cut it in half. Yeah.
So to the farthest reaches, Crescent Curve out down the bottom there, and what was the one at Spring Lake?
Wow.
No, but still,
baseline-
those ones you could cut them half.
No.
Those were like 12 minutes, right?
220th and baseline is our
Yeah, that's like 12
Bermuda Triangle
12
out
minutes.
there. And
Even
then-
the other side of Murphy over on the Lakeville line there, that takes a while.
Yeah, cut those in half.
There is an investment that time matters in some of this stuff. And to your point is, I would argue the doctor math in me is exact, not guess, that that the NFPA
Yeah, what are you
standards
saying?
are talking to things burning, and that they don't address the things that probably we all hold dear, which is our family. So I just want to make clear to everybody, don't get caught up in that time, because that time is not built to saving human lives. That's to saving buildings.
Right.
And then there's a really important part here that we all have to take into account, which is what do we value ourselves and our families' lives and their safety and security here in Frederick River.
Yeah, and I don't like to give like complete horror stories of examples of why we do what we do and how we want to improve that. But we had a car accident at Texas and Eagle Creek back in December, a very serious car accident with an extended extrication, a very injured, sick person. And it happened to be a day that we were in day training. So we had 4 people there and their response time was 3 minutes. And we started working that. It still was a 2-hour extrication, but it wasn't 2 hours and 20 minutes. Right? Does that make sense? Right? This last weekend, I had an unfortunate accident out in Spring Lake Township in the farthest reaches of our realm. And like I said, that was 17 minutes to get somebody out there. Besides, to get a crew out there to start working, and it's just not acceptable. It makes a difference. That fire chief math works, right? The proof is in the numbers.
Was there anyone else out there that's been like that? Sheriff?
Sure. Yeah. Everybody responds. I'm talking about from our standpoint of being
a
working crew and a trained crew medically to.
And your jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's our responsibility.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the other point to data collection here that is hard, that's the fire chief math is, there is not a good way to collect the data that when good luck and timing makes it so that you don't have a bad outcome. If that makes sense, is all of those systems are in place to catch the bad outcomes. They are not built to show when things line up right and the lives are saved. So the contrary to that would be the electrocution.
Yeah.
Good luck and timing that you had a lot of people there really quick, that if that would have been 17 minutes, it would have been a without a doubt death of a young person. But because of good luck and timing of where people were and time of day, you had an immediate life saved right there in the lawn. And we don't have systems that catch all of those great moments. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. We're unfortunately the bad news. The bad news is always out there. It's not all,
The fish are only caught that are the dead ones, and those are what we're trying to avoid. It's not all the times it just happens to work right. And it would be really nice to show that, because that would speak to this.
Right. So we'll conclude here. So these are our steps that so you can kind of go down. The grant was submitted on February 1st. So we'll hurry up and wait. No news is good news for now. We got the renovation for Fire Station 1 is happening. So the transitioning, that's, to build the dorms, to build. So we're getting ready for it. It would have been something that even if we decided that this isn't going to work, that we still would do, because we need to get ready. Right. So the grant spring, we'll start the hiring process fallish. It depends on when the grant is awarded and how that's all laid out, if it is. And then 2023 is when we would transition and begin our. Yep. So on Spring Lake, are you talking about?
No.
So yeah, so October we did the Spring Lake Township Board meeting. I did the same exact stuff here, and then we did our.
Outside of the board during your
What's that?
The Community Engagement Committee got it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We have, we have some opposition out there. I think a lot of it has to do with maybe some misinformation or not knowing the answers. And I'm happy to answer, you know. So that is all I have. I have a list of questions that I brought with that were given to you or given to me by you. I'm not sure if you want me to go over those or if.
Mr. Mayor, just one other comment too, you know, prior to 2008, it was kind of operating in a vacuum. I mean, Prior Lake Fire, Prior Lake City Council, put everything together. We had probably no input. And
We just got a
so
number.
at that point, and again, I'll Frank Boyles, but Mayor Miser, we now meet twice a year, Spring Lake, Red River, Prior Lake. Dominique gets involved looking at the numbers, and we look at what's in the budget, what's going to happen in terms of vehicle replacement, equipment replacement, what is going to need to be done, and we come up with a budget, and we know what our percentages are going to be. If for some reason they underspend, our amount is reduced. If they overspend, we may, for whatever reason, we may end up having to pay more to get stepped up there. But I believe the three entities have a really good relationship. When we had the retirement of the former chief, we had a seat at the table. So did Spring Lake. When Rick was hired, yes, city manager makes the final decision there, but we were involved in the interview process. So I think we have a really good situation with the city and with Spring Lake, and with having our financial person there looking at it, working with Prior Lakes and with Spring Lakes. So it's a really good situation. And how many firefighters do we have that live in Credit River? I know Jim lives there, because I've always said, if I'm having the big one, I hope you're on call and you come around the corner there on 165th and get those paddles out, you know. I know you are.
I think we have
Yeah.
three
And-
in Credit River and 4 in Spring Lake, I think.
If you count me as a Make-A-Wish kid, we got like
Yeah.
4.
But before 2008, we just felt like, here it is,
Yeah.
write the check out,
Here's the number,
Yeah.
cut the check.
you guys do whatever you want. And then once we decided to really get involved in it, it's been great ever since. So
Really good partnership.
Yeah, it works, and it
100%.
works, and it works really well.
When some of the stuff we're proposing too is.
Yeah.
I know that it's a lot to think about, chief, and we've talked about that, but I mean, that this is maybe a step even to a more formalized situation of restricting and so forth that might work for everyone for the future. And it sounds like Prior Lake as a city is open to those conversations as well, that even solidifies Credit River's kind of stake in that sport. Help out financially, but also that sustainability.
Yeah. Council members, any other questions or thoughts?
No.
Bill, did you have anything else?
No, thank you so much. You're very welcome.
Anybody, anybody else in the audience have any other questions?
Can I just ask, so what, you got all these guys on call, they're out on a call and your shift ends, what happens with that?
They're held over.
They would be
Do
held
they
over.
sit at the hall, or do they go join in on the whatever?
If they're needed, they would come out.
They come.
No,
Really?
They would stay there and wait till they get back.
They're done, they got finished up on that call.
Well, Tom, we have the mutual aid agreements, that's sustainability of the system. So I'd say that however many competing interests there are that you have to deal with in the county, is that at the level of the boots on the ground, that system is in place too. So this isn't a solution to fix all problems. It's just a solution to become a better partner. That when you're at Crescent Curve and nearly Highway 70 in Lakeville, they got a long ways to come too, but they're coming.
Yeah.
So that that's always there. And has there been situations, Chief, sure as heck, where you got 3-time life threats in Credit River that no matter what system you pay for, it's never sustainable by itself. So we have to consider that too, is that you want to be the right capacitance to be part of a bigger system, which is mutual aid with Elko and Lakeville and Savage and Shakopee and go down the list, because you need them when it really matters.
Absolutely. All right,
Okay.
Chief, thank you. Appreciate you coming back
My
and,
pleasure. Thanks for having us again.
doing the presentation again. You know, we did it for a workshop for the council earlier, and I thought it was important to do for the residents, so.
Thank you.
Everybody go on TikTok
Yep.
and learn the Safer Grant dance.
Yeah. Have a great evening and stay safe. We appreciate the service. Thank you.
Hey, we need it.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. No public hearings tonight, no general business tonight. Anybody have any council member or liaison updates? Okay. Let's see, I'm trying to think. We talked about Markley Lake before. That should have gone out. Brent, do we want to talk about Integra conversation at all? You know, they're looking to Nuvera, sorry. I'm old school. I should say Scott Rice telephone, right?
Yeah. We're going way back. Yeah.
Go way back.
We met with representatives of Nuvera, local folks from Prior Lake, Mary Courthauer, who we've known for years, and she still is quite active with the organization out of New Ulm. And they were just talking about what their plans are for fiber and what they're looking at doing with fiber. And it's pretty exciting. They were looking for some input on areas that they don't serve, that's not part of their telephone exchange, that may need fiber. So we looked at some of those. They're going to be coming back with some more information for us, and they're actually proposing possibility of some sort of a public and private partnership on this. And so it's in the initial phases. We have made no commitment at all, except a lot of listening. And but they want to make a multi-million-dollar investment in Credit River with fiber. And I think, you know, the relationship we've had with them in terms of cable franchise, their level of service has continued to be very strong, and they want to make a big commitment in Credit River. So it's pretty exciting.
Yep.
And that possibility of having that gig service through a large portion, and especially in areas that are underserved, that are
Currently.
in the area, the company that begins with an F, I won't mention their name here. So they're looking at the possibility of some expansion.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So exploratory
That's a good
phase,
conversation we had. with them
exploratory
that day.
phase at this
Yep.
point. Yeah.
Perfect. The only other thing, I think we launched our permitting software this week. So people can go online and get their, so far just the small permits are on there right now, right? Just the minor ones that are over the counter stuff. So, yeah, but it's out there. That's an improved process. So,
Just to, we can't all come and listen, but with Bill here, maybe just a quick on how we've been many, many months on the planning commission, just some feedback on how well that's going.
most of them have been, right?
Well,
You had
now
one that
you
was,
have done it.
right?
Now you have done it.
Other than the first one that we had in
Yep.
November, they've been the last.
Listen, I tell you,
Done in
the 5 members that we appointed to the planning commission have been spectacular. They
Well done to them.
ask very insightful questions, dig deep into it. Last Thursday, we dug into CSTS a little bit with the preliminary plat that was proposed last week, and a lot of really good questions on the operations, and will those ones fit in there? So, yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
good job
been
to them.
spectacular.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Kudos. We appreciate your guys' work, and
Yeah.
I think that
So I do that all before the meeting.
that's
Perfect.
That's great to hear, and that's what that work is.
Yep.
for.
So
All
we did-
right.
So we did something right.
Apparently, so far. All right,
Again.
again, yeah. So, nothing else on the agenda tonight, so I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Leroy. Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.